Notes. Line 1. Lo I the man. An imitation of the opening lines of Virgil's Aeneid. Ille ego, qui quondam gracili modulatus avena carmen. Gradum opus agricolis, et nunc Horentia Martis. Referring to his Shepherd's Calendar, 1579, Spenser thus gracefully indicates his change from pastoral to epic poetry. 5.9. Knights and ladies. The poet here imitates the opening of Ariosto's Orlando Furioso. 10. O Holy Virgin Chife of 9 refers to Clio, the muse of history. Spenser should have invoked Calliope, the muse of poetry. 14. Of Faerie Queene, that the champions of Gloriana, the Queen of Fairyland. Faerie, a British princess, daughter of Oberon, King of Fairyland. In the allegory, she is Queen Elizabeth. 15. That most noble Briton prince is Prince Arthur, the perfect knight, who is in love with Gloriana. In the allegory, the Earl of Leicester is probably meant, though by one tradition Sir Philip Sidney is identified with Prince Arthur. 19. Impe of highest Jove, Cupid, the god of love and son of Jupiter and Venus. He is represented as armed with an ebony bow. 50. 23. 25. Triumphant Mars, the god of war. The spelling is that of the Italians and Chaucer. 28. O Goddesse heavenly bright, Queen Elizabeth aged 56, who was fond of such extravagant flattery and expected it of all her courtiers. 31. Phoebus Lampe, Apollo the sun god. 34. Glorious type of thine, the Lady Una, who stands for truth in the allegory. 35. The argument of mine afflicted style, the subject of my humble pen. Afflicted has the original Latin sense of cast down. 36. O dearest Dred, O beloved object of reverence, a common salutation of royalty. Canto 1. 1. The plot. At the bidding of Gloriana, the Redcrosse Knight undertakes to deliver Una's parents from a dragon who holds them captive. He sets out upon his quest, attended by a dwarf and guided by Una, mounted on an ass and leading a lamb. They are driven by a storm into a forest, where they discover the cave of Errour, who is slain by the knight. They are then beguiled into the house of Archimago, an old enchanter. By his magic, he leads the knight in a dream to believe that Una is false to him, and thus separates them. 2. The allegory. 1. Holiness, the love of God, united with truth, the knowledge of God, is to deliver man from the thraldom of the devil. Together they are able to overthrow error. But hypocrisy deceitfully alienates holiness from truth by making the latter appear unworthy of love. 2. There is a hint of the intrigues of the false Roman Church and the treacherous Spanish king, Philip II, to undermine the religious and political freedom of the English people. The English nation, following the Reformed Church, overthrows the Catholic faith, but is deceived by the machinations of Spanish diplomacy. Line 1. A gentle knight, the Redcrosse Knight, representing the church militant and Reformed England. He is the young, untried champion of the old cause, whose struggles before the Reformation are referred to in LL. 3-4. His shield bore a cross gules upon a field argent, a red cross on a silver ground. See the birth of St. George and Percy's Reliques 3-3, and Mallory's Mort 500 Arthur 3-65. 15. 4 Sovrane hope, as a sign of the supreme hope. 20. Greatest Gloriana, Queen Elizabeth. In other books of the Faerie Queene she is called Belphobe, the patroness of chastity, and Britomart, the military genius of Britain. 27. A dragon, the great dragon, that old serpent called the devil. Revelation 12:9, also Rome and Spain. Cf. Legend of St. George and the Dragon and Fletcher's Purple Island, 7 sec. 28. A lovely Lady Una, the personification of truth and true religion. Her lamb symbolizes innocence. 46. A dwrfe, representing prudence or common sense, according to Morley, the flesh. 56. A shadie grove, the wood of error. By it Spenser shadows forth the danger surrounding the mind that escapes from the bondage of Roman authority and thinks for itself. Kitchen. The description of the wood is an imitation of Ariosto's Orlando Furioso. I. 37, Chaucer's Assembly of Fowls, 176, and Tasso's Jerusalem Delivered, 375. Morley sees in this grove an allegory of man's life, the trees symbolizing trade, pleasure, youth, etc. 69. The Sawlang pine. Ships were built of pine. 70. The loplar never dry, because it grows best in moist soil. 71. The builder oake. In the Middle Ages, most manor houses and churches were built of oak. 72. The cypressc, funerall, an emblem of death among the ancients, and sacred to Pluto. Sidney says that they were wont to dress graves with cypress branches in old times. 73. The Errour. Victors at the Pythian Games and triumphing Roman generals were crowned with laurel. It was also sacred to Apollo, the god of poetry, hence mead of poets sage. 74. The Faerie, that wepth still. The fir exudes resinous substance. 75. The willow. Willows, a sad tree, whereof such who have lost their love make their mourning garlands. Fuller's Worthies, I. 153. Cf. Heywood's Song of the Green Willow, and Desdemona's Song in Othello, 4:339. 76. The Augh. Ascham in his Toxophilus tells us that the best bows were made of yew. 78. The Myrrhe, the Arabian myrtle, which exudes a bitter but fragrant gum. The allusion is to the wounding of Mirha by her father and her metamorphosis into this tree. 79. The warlike beech, because lances and other arms were made of it. The ash for nothing ill. The uses of the ash is one of the most universal. It serves the soldier, the carpenter, the wheelwright, cartwright, cooper, turner, and thatcher. Evelyn Silva. The great tree Yggdrasil in the northern mythology was an ash. 81. The carver Holme, or evergreen oak, was good for carving. 106. Shame were to revoke, etc., it would be cowardly not to go forward for fear of some suspected unseen danger. 114. The Wandrng wood, i.e., which causes men to go astray. 123. Monster. The description of the monster error, or falsehood, is based on Hesiod's Echidna, Theog. 301, and the locusts in Revelation, 9:7-10. She is half human, half serpent, because error is partly true and partly false. Dante's fraud and Milton's sin are similar monsters. 126. Full of vile diastiani, full of vileness that bred disgust in the beholder. 130. Of her there bred, etc., of her were born 1,000 young ones. Her offspring are lies and rumors of many shapes. 141. Arms to point, completely armed. Cf. Fr. A point to nicety. 145. The valiant Elfe, because he was the reputed son of an elfin or fairy, though really sprung from an ancient race of Saxon kings. 3 kinds of elves are mentioned in the Edda, the black dwarfs and brownies, who both dwelt underground, and the fair elves, who dwelt in fairyland or Ulfheim. The difference between Spenser's elves and these Teutonic elves shows how he perverts fairy mythology in the same way as he does classical myths. Percival. 168. His gall did great for grif, his anger was aroused on account of pain. In the old anatomy, anger had its seat in the gallbladder. See Burton's Anatomy of Melancholy, II. 177. Her vomit full of books, etc. From 1570, when Pope Sixtus V issued his bull of deposition against Queen Elizabeth, to 1590, great numbers of scurrilous pamphlets attacking the Queen and the Reformed Church had been disseminated by Jesuit refugees. 181. Nilus. Pliny believed that the mud of the Nile had the power of breeding living creatures like mice. Hist. Nat 984. So Shakespeare, Antony and Cleopatra, 2 7 29. 199. Gentle Chipiaciardi. In this pastoral simile, Spenser imitates Homer's Iliad, 2 469 and 17 641, and Ariosto's Orlando Furioso, 14 109. 208. Thus il bestadd. There is a similar combat in the old romance Guy of Warwick, 9, between the hero and a man-eating dragon. 217. Her scattred brood. The poet here follows a belief, as old as Pliny, that the young of serpents fed on their mother's blood. In this entire passage, the details are too revolting for modern taste. 232. The witch them nurst. The antecedent of which is her. In the 16th century, there was frequently placed before which was also the equivalent of who. Cf. The Lord's Prayer. 234. He should contend, he should have had to contend. 237. Born under happy starri. Belief in astrology was once common, and Spenser, being a Pythagorean, would hold the doctrine of the influence of the stars on human destiny. 239. That armorei, the armor of the Christian warrior. Ephesians 6:13. 243. That like succeed it may, that like successful adventures may succeed it. The word order is inverted for the sake of the rhyme. 250. To friend as his friend. 254. An aged sire, the false enchanter, archimago or hypocrisy, who is supposed to represent Pope Sixtus V or King Philip II of Spain. In general, he stands for false religion or the Church of Rome. The character and adventure are taken from Orlando Furioso, 2:12, in which there is a hypocritical hermit. The knight at first takes Archimago to be a palmer and inquires for the foreign news. 295. Take up urine, take lodging. 301. A little wide, a little way off. 315. An Ave Mary, Hail Mary, a prayer to the Virgin. Cf. Luke I 28. 317. The sad humor, the heavy moisture, or slombering dew. 318. Morpheus, the son of Somnus and god of sleep and dreams, who sprinkled the dew of sleep on the brow of mortals from his horn or wings, or from a bough dipped in lethe. 323. His magic books and arts. Monks engaged in scientific investigation, such as Friar Roger Bacon, were popularly supposed to use Kabbalistic books, and to make compacts with the devil by means of necromancy or the black art, as in St. 37. Before the close of the century, Marlowe's Dr. Faustus and Green's Friar Bacon and Friar Bungay, both based on the popular belief in magic, were presented on the London stage. 328. Blacke Pluto's Grisly Dame, Proserpine, the avenger of men, and inflictor of curses on the dead. She is identified with Shakespeare's Hecate, the goddess of sorcery, and with Milton's Catido, goddess of lust. To this latter sin, the knight is tempted. 332. Great Gorgon, Demogorgon, whose name might not be uttered, a magician who had power over the spirits of the lower world. The poet is here imitating the Latin poets Lucan and Statius. 333. Cocus, the river of wailing and Styx, the river of hate, both in Hades. There were two others, Acheron, the river of sorrow, and Phlegethon, the river of fire. 335. Legions of sprites. In this stanza and the preceding Spenser follows Tasso's Jerusalem Delivered, 13, 611, where the magician Ismeno, guarding the enchanted wood, conjures legions of devils with the mighty name. 50. 332. 339. Chose. Imitation of Ariosto's Orlando Furioso, 2, 15, in which a false spirit is called up by a hypocritical hermit. The description of the house of sleep in St. 39 sec. is modeled on the same poet, Orlando Furioso, 2, 15 sec. The influence of Homer's Odyssey, 11, 16 is seen in St. 39 ll. 348 sec. 348. Tethys, the ocean. In classical mythology, she is the daughter of Uranus, heaven, and Gaia, earth, and the wife of Oceanus. 349. Siwantichae, the moon. The allusion is to the story of Diana and Endymion. See Lily's play Endymion. 352. WHOSE double GATES. Homer, Odyssey, 19, 562, and Virgil, Aeneid 6, 893, give the House of Dreams a horn and an ivory gate. Spenser substitutes silver for horn, mirrors being overlaid with silver in his time. From the ivory gate issued false dreams, from the other, true ones. 361. Slumber soft. This stanza shows Spenser's wonderful technique. His exquisite effects are produced, it will be noticed, partly by the choice of musical words and partly by the rhythmical cadence of the verse phrases. It is an example of perfect keeping, or adaptation of sound to sense. Cf. Chaucer's description of the waterfalls in the Cave of Sleep in his Boke of the Duchesse, 162. 376. WHOSE drier Brian, whose brain too dry. In the old physiology, a dry brain was the cause of slow and weak perception, and a moist brain of quickness. 378. All entirely, altogether. 381. Hecate, queen of phantoms and demons in Hades, and mistress of witches on earth. C37. 387. The sleeper sent, the sleeper sense. 405. Most like to SEME, etc. Most likely fit to seem for represent, una. Like is an adv. A very awkward inversion. 411. Born without her DAW, i.e. Created by him in an unnatural manner. 425. Fair Venus, the daughter of Jupiter or Zeus, and the sea nymph Dione. She is the same as Aphrodite, the Greek goddess of love and beauty. 430. The Graces, Euphrosyne, Aglaia, and Thalia, daughters of Zeus and Aphrodite. 431. Hymen Hymen, refrain of an old Roman nuptial song. Hymen, the son of Apollo and the muse Urania, was the god of marriage. 432. Freshest Flora, the goddess of flowers. She typified spring. 447. To prove his sense, etc. To test his perception and prove her feigned truth. 449. Though can shewpa, then did she weep. Can here is the northern dialect form for the Middle English gan, past tense of ginen, to begin, which was used as an auxiliary. 454. The blind god, Cupid, Eros, or Amor, the god of love. 478. Like other knights of romance, e.g. Sir Galahad and Sir Gareth in Malory's Mort 500 Arthur, 3, 65, etc., the Redcrosse Knight does not yield to the temptation of the flesh, but overcomes it. Questions and TOPICS for study. Canto 1. 1. Tell in your own words the story of this canto. 2. Which muse does Spenser invoke? 3. Who were the 9 muses? 4. What is the difference between pastoral and epic poetry? 5. Illustrate by the Shepherd's Calendar and the Faerie Queene. 6. Point out imitations of Homer, Virgil, Lucan, Statius, Ariosto, Tasso, and Chaucer. 7. Explain the reference to the religious questions and politics of Queen Elizabeth's reign. 8. Where does Spenser use classical mythology medieval legends? 9. What references to the Bible do you find? 10. Try to make a mental picture of the Knight of Una of Errour of Archimago. 11. Is Spenser's character drawing objective or subjective? 12. Is the description of the wood in 7 true to nature? Could so many trees grow together in a thick wood? 13. Study the Rembrandt-like effects of light and shade in 14. 14. What infernal deities are conjured up by Archimago? 15. Paraphrase in your own language LL. 88, 106, 107, 116, 267 to 68. 16. Explain use of oven 50. 75. 17. What part of speech is wandering 50? 114. To view in 50. 201. Pars which 50. 232. Him and spend 50. 233. You and show 50. 276. 18. Find examples of euphuistic hyperbole in 4, of alliteration in 14. 19. Explain the use and form of ein, edified, afflicted, weeds, hebine, impe, compelled, arides, blazon, iclad. Canto 2. I. The plot. Deceived by Archimago's phantoms, the Redcrosse Knight suspects the chastity of Una and flies at early dawn with his dwarf. He chances to meet the Saracen Sansf in company with the false Dusa. They do battle and Sansf is slain. Dusa, under the name of Fidessa, attaches herself to the knight, and they ride forward. They stop to rest under some shady trees. On breaking a bough, the knight discovers that the trees are two lovers, Fra Giubio and Fraelissa, thus imprisoned by the cruel enchantment of Dusa. 2. The allegory, 1. Hypocrisy under a pious disguise is attractive to holiness. Truth is also deceived by it and shamefully slandered. Holiness, having abandoned truth, takes up with falsehood, who is attended by infidelity. Unbelief, when openly assailing holiness, is overthrown, but falsehood under the guise of faith remains undiscovered. The fate of the man, Fra Giubio, is set forth who halts between two opinions: false religion, Dusa, and heathen philosophy, or natural religion, Fraelissa. 2. The Reformed Church, no longer under the guidance of truth, rushes headlong into infidelity, and unwittingly became the defender of the Romish faith under the name of the true faith. There is a hint of the intrigues of Mary Queen of Scots and the libels of the Jesuits on Queen Elizabeth, designed to bring back the English nation to Romish allegiance. Line 1. The Northerne Wagoner, the constellation Boötes. 2. His sevenfold TEME, the 7 stars of Ursa Major, or Charles's Wain. The SDDFASD, SDARRE, the pole star which never sets. 6. CHERFULL CHA1TICLERE, the name of the cock in the Fablios and Beast epics, e.g. Roman de Renart and Reineke Futz. 7. Phoebus Faerie Carre, the sun. 11. That Faire forged SBRIGHT, fair but miscreated spirit, I. 14. Spenser took suggestions for this stanza from Ariosto and Tasso. 51. Faire Hesperus, the evening star. 55. The rosy Fingred morning. This beautiful epithet of Aurora, the goddess of the dawn, is borrowed from Homer, Hesiod, and other ancient poets. 56. Aged Tithons, son of Laomedon, king of Troy. Aurora conferred upon him immortality without youth, hence the epithet aged. 58. Titan, the sun god in the Roman myths. 85. Proteus, a sea god who is endowed with the power of prophecy. He could change himself into any shape in order to avoid having to prophesy. See Homer, Odyssey 4, 366 sec, and Virgil, Georgics 4, 387. 90. HERBES. In the 16th century, the belief in potions, magic formulas, etc., was still strongly rooted in the popular mind. The Spanish court and the priests were supposed to employ supernatural agencies against the Protestants. 105. A faithless Sarzin. Spenser uses the word Saracen in the general sense of pagan. During the Middle Ages, the Saracen power was a menace to Europe and the stronghold of infidelity. The names of the 3 Paynim brethren, Sansfai, Sanst, and Sansley, faithless, joyless, and lawless, suggest the point of view of Spenser's age. 109. A Faire companion, the enchantress Dusa, or falsehood, who calls herself Fidessa. In the allegory, Spenser intended her to represent the Romish Church and Mary Queen of Scots. Her character and appearance were suggested by the woman of Babylon in Revelation 8:4, Ariosto's Alcina and Tasso's Armida. 136. As when to RAMS. This figure is found in Virgil, Apollonius, Malory, Tasso, Dante, and other poets and romancers. 141. The hanging victory, the victory which hung doubtful in the balance. 144. The broken reliques, the shattered lances. 148. Each other's equal, puissance envies. Each envies the equal prowess of the other. 149. Through their iron sides, etc., through their armored sides with cruel glances, etc. 155. The bitter fit, the bitterness of death. 158. Assured sitt, etc., sit firm in the saddle, and hide cover thy head with thy shield. 160. With rigor so outrageous, with force so violent. 161. That a large share, etc., that a large piece it the sword hewed, etc. 162. From blame him fairly blessed. 1. Fairly preserved him from hurt. 2. Fairly acquitted him of blame. Him in 1 refers to the knight, in 2 to the Saracen. 1 is the better interpretation. 169. Grudging. Because reluctant to part from the flesh. 196. Daughter of an Errour. Dusa represents the Pope, who exercised imperial authority in Rome, though the seat of the empire had been transferred to Constantinople in 476. 200. The only Haire. The Dauphin of France, the first husband of Mary Queen of Scots, afterwards King Francis II, son of Henry II. Dusa's story is full of falsehoods. 244. So dainty they say maketh drth, coyness makes desire. The knight is allured on by Dusa's assumed shyness. 251. Any want there sound, nor was accustomed to sound there. 254. Cool shade. The Reformed Church, weakened by falsehood, is enticed by doubt and skepticism. 262. Faire seemly perilous, pleasant courtesies. 263. With goodly purposes, with polite conversation. This whole stanza refers to Mary's candidacy for the English throne and its dangers to Protestantism. 269. He pelusicatiabau. In this incident Spenser imitates Ariosto, Orlando Furioso, 6:26, in which Ruggiero addresses a myrtle which bleeds and cries out with pain. The conception of men turned into trees occurs also in Ovid, Virgil, Tasso, and Dante. 272. O spare with guilty hands, etc. Cf. Virgil's account of Polydorus in Aeneid, 3:41, in which a myrtle exclaims, Pars pias celerare manus, etc. 284. From Limbo Lake here, the abode of the lost. With the schoolmen Limbo was a border region of hell where dwelt the souls of Old Testament saints, pious heathen, lunatics, and unbaptized infants. Cf. Milton's Paradise of Fools, Paradise Lost, 495. 291. Fradubio, as it were brother doubtful, one who hesitates between false religion and pagan religion, Dusa and Frailissa, Morley. Frailissa is fair but frail, and will not do to lean upon. 342. Faire in place, fair in that place. 351. To treen mold, to the form of a tree. Treen is an edge. Like wooden. 354. The same. Supply as she appeared to be, i.e. fair and true. 357. Proper hue. Witches had to appear in their proper hue one day in spring and undergo a purifying bath. The old romances make frequent mention of the enchanted herb bath. 370. By changs of mychare, by my changed countenance or expression. 371. Drowned in slepi night. The phrase modifies body, or is equivalent to, while I was drowned in sleep. 382. In a living well, in a well of running water. This well signifies the healing power of Christianity. John 4:14. In Spenser's story, this well is never found, and the wretched couple are never restored to human shape. 404. All PASSED all fear having passed. Questions and topics. Canto 2. 1. How does the knight feel and act while under Archimago's spell? 2. What becomes of Una? 3. How does Archimago plan to deceive her? 4. Tell the story of the lovers turned into trees. 5. Who was Sansfa? 6. Describe the appearance and character of Dusa. 7. What did she have to do with Fra Giubio and Frailissa? 8. What was the old belief about the penance of witches? 9. How only could the lovers be restored to their human shape? Was it done? 10. Who were sent? George Phoebus, Titan Tithonius. 11. Explain the reference to Chanticleer in 50. 6. 12. Find examples of alliteration in 19, of balance in 37, and of Latinizing in 19, 36, 38, and 40. 13. Paraphrase in your own words LL. 111, 134, 135, 162, giving two interpretations. 335, 386, 387. 14. What figure of speech is used in 13, 16, and 20? 15. Study the rich word painting in the description of sunrise in 7. Find other examples of this poet's use of costly epithets. 16. Scan the following passages: 148, 174, 178, 193, and 299. 17. Find example of Timesis, separation of prep. From Ob in 45. 18. What is the difference between the two wells in 43? 19. To whom do the pronouns in LL? 174, 175 refer. 20. What is the case of heavens in 50? 193. Of Sarazin in 50? 217. 21. What words are omitted in LL? 188, 313, 398. Canto 3. I. The plot, Una wandering in quest of her knight, is guarded by a lion. With difficulty they gain entrance to the cottage of Corsica and her daughter Abessa, the paramour of Kirkrapine. The latter is killed by the lion. Fleeing the next day, Una falls in with Archimago disguised as the Redcrosse Knight. They journey on and meet a second Saracen knight, Sansloy. In the fight which ensues, Archimago is unhorsed and his deception unmasked. The lion is slain, and Una becomes the captive of Sansloy. 2. The allegory, 1. Truth finds temporary protection in reason or natural honor, lion, and with its help puts a stop to the robbing of churches, Kirkrapine, which is connived at by blind devotion, Corsica, and secret sin, Abessa. Truth is then associated with hypocrisy under the guise of holiness, but it is soon unmasked by lawlessness, Sansloy, with which truth is forced into an unnatural alliance. 2. The lion is said to represent Henry VIII, overthrowing the monasteries, destroying church robbers, disturbing the dark haunts of idleness, ignorance, and superstition. Kitchen. The battle between Archimago and Sansloy refers to the contests of the Catholic powers with the Moslems. The whole canto also has a hint of the violence and lawlessness connected with the English conquest of Ireland. Line 14. Thogh true as touch, though true as if tested on the touchstone, by which true gold was distinguished from counterfeit. 18. And her do loves, etc., the love due to her diverted, etc. 27. Yet wished tydings, etc., yet none brought unto her the wished-for tidings of him. An awkward transposition. 34. The great eye of heaven, the sun. Cf. Paradise Lost 5. 171. 38. A ramping lyon. Reason or natural honor, also Henry VIII. According to the ancient belief, no lion would attack a true virgin or one of royal blood. Similar scenes are found in Sir Bevis of Hampton, the 7 champions of Christendom, etc. Cf. I Henry 4:24. The allegory signifies that man guided merely by reason will recognize truth and pay it homage. 51. WHOSEYELDED pride, etc. Object of head marked 50. 52. 77. He kept both watch and ward, he kept awake and guarded her. 89. A DAMZELLSBYDE, Abessa, who symbolizes flagrant or secret sin. 99. Her cast in deadly hue, threw her into a deathly paleness. 101. Upon the wager lay was at stake. 102. Whereas her mother BLYND, where her blind mother, Corsica, or blind devotion. 109. Unruly page. This refers to the violence with which Henry VIII forced Protestantism upon the people. In his present state of Ireland, p. 645, Spenser speaks of the ignorance and blind devotion of the Irish papists in the benighted country places. 116. Pater Nostrs, the Lord's Prayer, Aves, prayers to the Virgin. 136. ALDBORAN, the bull's eye, a double star of the first magnitude in the constellation Taurus. 137. Cassiopeia's Chaire, a circumpolar constellation having a fancied resemblance to a chair. 139. One knocked at the Dore, Kirkerpine, the plunderer of the church. Spenser represents in him the peculiar vices of the Irish clergy and laity. 166. Stay him to adviz, stop to reflect. 172. Him booth not resist, it does him no good to resist. This whole passage refers, perhaps, to Henry VIII's suppression of the monasteries and convents in 1538-39. 185. That long WNDRNG, GREKE. Ulysses, or Odysseus, the hero of Homer's Odyssey, who wandered 10 years and refused immortality from the goddess Calypso in order that he might return to Penelope. 22. Note the rhymes dear here and tear air. This 16th century pronunciation still survives in South Carolina. See Ellis's Early English Pronunciation, 3, 868. This stanza reads like the description of an Irish wake. 238. Or ought have done, or have done something to displease you. 239. That should as death, etc., that should settle like death, etc. 248. Anne chose in Fairy Court. See Spenser's letter to Sir W. Raleigh p. 6. 250. Her kindly skill, her natural power. 276. Fierce Orions hound, Sirius, the dog star, the brightest of the fixed stars. The constellation Orion was named from a giant hunter who was beloved by Aurora and slain by Diana. 279. And Nereus CROWNES with CUPS, and Nereus drinks bumpers in his honor. Nereus was a sea god, son of ocean and earth. 282. From ground, from the land. 297. Sans LOY symbolizes the pagan lawlessness in Ireland. There is also a wider reference to the struggles between the Turks and the allied Christian powers, which had been going on since the Siege of Vienna in 1529. 309. Vainly CROSSED shield, Archimago's false cross lacked the protecting power of St. George's charmed true cross. 321. Lethe Lake, a lake or river of Hades, whose water brought oblivion or forgetfulness to all who drank of it. 322. Refers to the ancient custom of sacrificing an enemy on the funeral altar to appease the shade of the dead. 323. The BLACKE INFERNALL FURIES, the Erinyes or goddesses of vengeance, who dwelt in Erebus. They were robed in black, bloody garments, befitting their gloomy character. 325. In romance, it was customary for the victor to unlace the helmet of the knight, whom he had unhorsed before slaying him. Friends and relatives were sometimes discovered by this precaution. 342. Any ever want in field, etc., was never accustomed to fight in the battlefield or in the lists of the tournament. 43. Contrast Sansloy's rude treatment of Una with the chivalrous respect and courtesy always shown by a true knight to woman. Questions and topics. Canto 3. 1. What moral reflections does the poet make in the introductory stanza? Note the reference to the Queen. 2. What do you learn of the laws, customs, and sentiments of chivalry in this canto? 3. Give an account of Una's meeting with the lion. 4. Explain the allegory of the incident of the lion. 5. Describe the character, appearance, and actions of Corsica and explain the allegory. 6. Note the use of the stars to indicate time. 7. Under what circumstances does Una meet Archimago? 8. Explain the allegory in 9. 9. Note the euphuistic balance in 27. 10. What figure do you find in 31? Note the Homeric style. 11. Describe the fight between Archimago and Sansloy and explain the double allegory. 12. What is the moral interpretation of 41-42? 13. Explain the Latinisms in LL. 37 and 377. 14. How are the adjectives used in 50? 57. 15. Note change of pronouns in 7 from third person to first. 16. Explain tense of shold par in 50. 83. 17. Note confusion of pronouns in 22 and 35. 18. Examine the nominative absolute construction in sent. 14 and 39. 19. Explain the ambiguous construction in 50. 165. 20. Parse her in 50. 262. 21. Note careless use of relative in 50. 288. Canto 4. I. The plot. In this and the following canto, the adventures of the Redcrosse Knight are continued from Canto 2. Guided by Dusa, he enters the House of Pride. There he sees Lucifera, the Queen of Pride, attended by her sinful court. Her 6 counselors are described in detail, with an account of a pleasure trip taken by the Queen and her court. Sansloy unexpectedly arrives and challenges the knight to mortal combat for the shield of Sansv. That night Dusa holds a secret conference with the Saracen knight. 2. The allegory. 1. The Christian soldier, under the influence of false ideals, Dusa, is exposed to the temptations of the 7 deadly sins, chief among which is pride. In the midst of these sinful pleasures, he is assailed by joylessness, on whose side is falsehood secretly. 2. The religious and political allegory is here vague and somewhat discontinuous. There is a hint, however, of the attempts of Mary Queen of Scots to bring England back to Romanism. The pride and corruption of the false church and its clergy are set forth. There is also a suggestion of the perilous position of the English in Ireland. 20. Of each degree and place, of every rank and order of society. 21. Having scaped hard, having escaped with difficulty. 24. Lazars. Leprosy was a common disease in England, even as late as the 16th century. 49. Malvenue ill come, as opposed to bienvenue welcome. 73. Like Phoebus Phaeristes child, Phaethon, the son of Helios. He was killed by a thunderbolt from the hand of Zeus, as a result of his reckless driving of the chariot of the sun. 86. A dreadfull dragon, fallen pride. 94. This genealogy of pride is invented by the poet in accord with the Christian doctrine concerning this sin. 107. 6 Wizards old, the remaining 6 of the 7 deadly sins, wrath, envy, lechery, gluttony, avarice, and idleness. See Chaucer's Parson's Tale for a sermon on these mortal sins, Gower's Dance of the 7 Deadly Sins, and Laughlin's Piers Plowman. 145. Coche. Spenser imitates Ovid and Homer in this description of Juno's chariot. The peacock was sacred to the goddess, who transferred to its tail the 100 eyes of the monster Argus. See Ovid's Metamorphoses, I. 625 sec. 157. With like conditions, etc. The behests were of a kind similar to the nature of the 6 sins. 174. HECHLNGD ESSONE, he claimed exemption. 185. Like a crane. This refers to Aristotle's story of a man who wished that his neck were as long as a crane's, that he might the longer enjoy the swallowing of his food. Nick. Ethics 3:13. 205. A dry dropsie, a dropsy causing thirst. 236. Aponasiamulel, etc. The reference is to a story in Herodotus' History, 3:102 sec. In which the Indians are described as carrying off on camels gold dust hoarded by enormous ants. 252. Unto him esilafi unkanowne, i.e. being ignorant of his own wretchedness. 309. Unthrifty scath, wicked damage or mischief that thrives not. 313. The swelling splene. The spleen was the seat of anger. 314. Saint Fruncs fire, St. Anthony's fire, or erysipelas. Diseases were named from those who were supposed to be able to heal them. 335. With perilous, etc. Fed with enjoyment of the fields, the fresh air of which they went to breathe. 437. And perilous hap, etc. It does no good to bemoan unavoidable chance. 440. Pay his dwtis last. Pay his last duty to the shade of the slain man by sacrificing his murderer. 443. Oddes of armes. Chances of mishap in arms due to some advantage of one's antagonist. Questions and topics. Canto 4. 1. What are the moral reflections in stanza I? 2. What suggestion of the condition of the English roads do you find in St. 2. 3. But few returned 50. 21. What became of the rest? 4. Give a description of the House of Pride. Note resemblance to a typical Elizabethan hall. 5. Explain the allegory of the house, noting the association of ugliness and beauty. 6. How is expectation aroused in 6? 7. Describe the dramatic appearance and character of pride. Cf. Description of Satan on his throne in Paradise Lost, 3. 8. What do you learn in this canto of Elizabethan or chivalric manners and customs? 9. Describe the procession at the Court of Pride. 10. What satire of the Romish priesthood in 1820? 11. Note examples of Spenser's humor in 14 and 16. 12. Point out the classical influence, Dionysus and Silenus, in the description of gluttony. 13. Subject of the interview between Dusa and Sans. 14. Point out the archaisms in 50. 10. Alliteration in 39 and 50. The Latinisms in 46 and 47. 15. In what case is way in 50? 17. 16. Explain the meaning and historical significance of Lazar, 50. 24 and dial 50. 36. 17. Explain the references of the pronouns in 50. 55 and LL. 418 419. 18. Note the euphuistic balance and antithesis in 29 and 45. 19. Explain the suffix in Marchen in 50. 325. 20. Note the double negative in 4, 49. 21. Paraphrase in your own words LL. 239, 243, 360, 437. Canto 5. I. The plot, a continuation of Canto 4. The knight fights in the lists with Sansjoy and defeats him, but is prevented by Dusa's magic from slaying him. Dusa descends to Erebus and obtains the aid of Night, who conveys the wounded Saracen in her chariot to Aesculapius to be healed of his wounds. The tortures of some of the souls in Erebus are described, particularly the cause of Aesculapius' punishment. A roll of the prisoners, whom the dwarf discovers in Pride's dungeon, is given. The knight flees with the dwarf from her house. 2. The allegory. When the Christian soldier is attacked by joylessness, he has a far more desperate struggle than that with infidelity, and comes out wounded though victorious. Joylessness, when crushed by holiness, is restored by pagan philosophy. The backsliding Christian is warned in time by prudence of the fearful consequences of sin, and hastens to turn his back on pride and the other sins. The soul is led to dread pride, not by truth, but by its sufferings and other inferior motives. 25. Their timely voices, their voices keeping time with their harps. 27. Old loves, famous love affairs, the subject of the minnesingers. 29. Inwoven maile, in chain armor. 32. Areby, probably here the Orient in general. 33. From furthest YND, from farthest India. 39. Unto a paled grene, a green enclosure, lists for a tournament, surrounded by a palisade. 44. His. An old method of forming the possessive, based on a misapprehension of the original Anglo-Saxon suffix "-es, which was shortened in Middle English to "is", and finally to "s". 45. Both those, etc. Both Dusa and the shield are to go to the victor. 65. A gryphon, a fabulous animal, part lion and part eagle. Gryphon is subject of encountereth, with dragon as object. 89. And sluggish German, etc. And sluggish brother, dost relax thy strength to send his sansfoys foe after him, that he may overtake him. In LL. 86-88 Sanst addresses his brother in LL. 89-90 himself. German is any blood relation. 100. The knight supposed that Dusa's encouraging words were addressed to him. 114. Spenser here, with fine dramatic effect, imitates Homer, who saves Paris and Aeneas by a similar device. Iliad 3, 380, and 5, 345. 159. Trs. This mention of the man-eating crocodile's tears is based on an old Latin proverb. Sir John Manville repeats the story. 172. Grysly Knight. According to mythology, Hesiod's Theog. 123. One of the first things created, the daughter of chaos and mother of Aetha, Sky and Hemera Day, also of deceit, strife, old age, and vengeance. See 22 and 27. 202. On GRONINGBEARE, on a bier with groaning friends around. 204. Oh, what of Gods, etc. Oh, what is it to be born of gods, if old Avugals, the father of the three Saracens, sons are so ill-treated. 219. And good successes, etc., and good results which follow their foes. 221. Or brake the chyne, refers to Jove's proposition to fasten a golden chain to the earth by which to test his strength. Homer's Iliad 8:19. Cf. Milton's Paradise Lost 2, 1051. 225. Bad excheat, bad gain by exchange. Escheat is an old legal term, meaning any lands or goods which fall to the lord of a fief by forfeiture. Cf. Rob Peter to pay Paul. 229. Shall with his OWNE BLOUD, etc., shall pay the price of the blood that he has spilt with his own. 263. Here Spenser imitates Homer's Odyssey, 16, 163. 267. The ghastly OWLE. The poet follows the Latin rather than the Greek poets, who regard the owl as the bird of wisdom. 273. Of deep Avernus hole. Avernus in the poets is a cavern in an ancient crater, supposed to be the entrance to the infernal regions. Cf. Virgil's Aeneid 6, 237. In Strabo's Geography, it is a lake in Campania. 298. Cerberus, the dog which guarded the lower regions. This stanza is an imitation of Virgil's Aeneid, 6, 417 sec. In Dante's Inferno, Virgil appeases him by casting handfuls of earth into his maw. 35. In this stanza, we see the influence of Homer and Virgil. Ixion, the king of Lapithae, was chained by order of Zeus to a fiery-winged wheel for aspiring to the love of the goddess Hera, Juno. Sisyphus had to roll a huge stone forever up a hill for betraying the designs of the gods. Tantalus, for divulging the secrets of Zeus, was condemned to stand tormented by thirst in a lake. Tydeus, for an assault on Artemis, was pinioned to the ground with 2 vultures plucking at his vitals. Typhoeus, a 100-headed giant, was slain by Zeus' thunderbolt and buried under Aetna. The gin on which he was tortured was probably the rack of the Middle Ages. Cf. The bed of Procrustes. Theseus, for attempting to carry off Persephone, was fixed to a rock in Tartarus. The 50 sisters are the 50 Danaids, who, for slaying their husbands, were condemned to pour water forever into a vessel full of holes. 322. Sad Aesculapius, the god of medicine, slain by Zeus for arresting death and diseases. 354. And fates expired, and the threads of life which the fates Parcae had severed. 387. Great Paeanias, and greater praise, etc. His praise, like his pain, is to be eternal. 47. This list of the thralls of pride is in imitation of a similar one in Chaucer's Monk's Tale, which was based on Boccaccio's De Casibus Illustrium Virorum. 415. Proud king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar. See Daniel 3 and 4. 420. King Croesus, the last king of Lydia, who was overthrown by Cyrus in B. 100. 646. Herodotus I-26. 422. Proud Antiochus Epiphanes, king of Syria, who captured Jerusalem twice and defiled God's altar. He died raving mad B. 100. 164. Josephus, Antiquities of the Jews, 1359. 424. Great Nimrod, the mighty hunter, Genesis 10:8, whose game, according to Spenser, was man. Josephus tells us that through pride, he built the Tower of Babel. 426. Old Ninus, the legendary founder of Nineveh, and put to death by his wife, Semiramis. 428. That mighty monarch, Alexander the Great, B. 100. 366 323, king of Macedon. While consulting the oracle of Jupiter Ammon in the Libyan desert, he was saluted by the priests as Ammon's son. He died either of poison, Plutarch, or of excessive drink, Diodorus. 437. Great Romulus, legendary founder of Rome, B. 100. 753. See Livy I-16. 438. Proud Tarquin, Tarquinius Superbus, the last king of Rome. He was banished B. 100. 510. 438. 2 Lordly Eliantulus, surnamed Sura, member of a haughty patrician family, who conspired with Catiline and was strangled B. 100. 62. 439. Stout Scipio, Cornelius Scipio Africanus, B. 100. 287-183. The conqueror of Hannibal and self-exiled from Rome. Livy speaks of his inordinate pride, 3850. 439. Stubbiorni, Hanibill, B. 100. 247-183. The great Carthaginian general, who died by poison to avoid falling into the hands of the Romans. 440. Ambitious Sylla, B. 100. 138-78. Cornelius Sulla, the dictator, who died a loathsome death. 440. Stierne Marius, B. 100. 157-86. After being 7 times consul, he was obliged to take refuge from his rival Sulla amid the ruins of Carthage. 441. High Caesar, Caius Julius Caesar, B. 100. 144, who was murdered by Brutus and other conspirators. 441. Great Pompey. CN. Pompeius Magnus, B 100.